Welcome to the third season of the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future of sports medicine. To find out more about Replenishing Care Technologies, go to thegruelingtruth.net, click on the banner, it'll take you to their website. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host. First up, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
I'm doing good. It's great to be back. Great to be talking about the CFL again.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a really competitive season, which we'll get into in a minute. And, of course, the third member of our crew, as always, former CFL legendary running back, Robert Drummond. How you doing, Robert?
Doing pretty good, as always. You know, another exciting season. And legendary makes me sound older. My son calls me legendary.
Well, I thought about dropping, former, too, because that makes you sound older, too. So I hate when people call me former. But
trust me, I have two sons that bride me all the time about it. So they know what I've accomplished, they know what I've done, but they enjoy riding me being much older dad. So
yeah, but never complain about somebody calling you legendary.
No, I mean I'm not complaining about the term. I'm just complaining about it makes me sound older.
I know, but you usually can't be a legend unless you're older.
No, that is true. But I mean, I don't mind it. Except I think it only bothers me when my son say it because they say it to bother me.
Oh yeah, my son does the same thing too. He walks up to me today and says, "So what do you think? You got about 9 good years left?"
That's just something my son would say.
I know. It was Grant. Brian knows him. He's a troublemaker.
If it was Grant, then I'm surprised he gave you 9 years, quite honestly.
I know. It's a wonder he just didn't come up and end me right there. He's bigger than me now anyway.
Pretty much.
Brian. All right, so had a big offseason in the CFL. We'll talk about a few of the bigger things. Number one, Wally Bono's final season at BC. Robert, this is one of the greatest coaches, and I think definitely a legend that the CFL has seen.
What a great run for Coach Bono. I was fortunate enough to be under the tutelage and play for another coach. God rest his soul. Coach Matthews, who was in the same era. Grey Cup winner. Victory winner. Just multiple teams. Just being able to go out there and coach teams and getting the best out of his players. It's good to see Coach Bono. And I call him Coach Bono out of respect for someone who's played the game, who realized I never played for Coach Bono, but I played against him, and I always respected him as a coach because he always understood, the nuances of a game and how to approach a game, with the players he had. He was a chess master, just like Coach Matthews, and it'll be a fun year for him, and hopefully, Calgary can win this for him, but it's a long year. It's a very long year.
And Brian, when we look at BC, they had a rough year last year. You've got an up-and-down quarterback in Jonathan Jennings. Do you think that there's enough talent there to maybe send Coach Bono out in a blaze of glory?
Oh, I would love to say there is. I don't think there is. But as we all know, sometimes when you're playing on that wave of emotion, anything can happen. And I mean, this man's been doing this in the CFL for 33 years. I just kind of can't remember when I saw that number. It's hard. You just don't wrap your head around that. For 33 years, this man has been a coach or a general manager in the CFL. It's amazing. And if they can, ride that wave, you never know. On paper, they don't have the talent, I think, to make a cup run, but that's the great thing is the game's never played on paper, so you never know what'll happen.
All right, next up, the other big news. We're south of the border in Canada. There we got Johnny Manziel with Hamilton teaming up with June Jones. Brian, I'll start off with you there. It looks like they're starting off with Jeremiah Masoli. My big question with Johnny Manziel is this a good move, or is he going to be a bigger distraction than what it's worth?
Well, I think it's going to be a good move. The reason I say that is when Manziel was in the spring league here before he went to Canada, there was a lot of great reports coming out of there. I know we had a couple players that were in the spring league. there's a lot of things that, he's really trying to change his life. And so, this is that great opportunity for him. So I hope that he goes there, he puts in the work, does the right things on and off the field, and is not a distraction. But obviously, if he is, then, hopefully they get rid of him and because obviously, I think with June Jones and what he's trying to do there, I think that there's an opportunity for them to be competitive, be successful. Last thing you want is a big distraction.
Yeah, and Robert, I think it's worth the shot just because I'm not really sold on Masoli either, who's a guy that one week looks great, the next week he looks not so great. What do you think on Johnny Manziel and Hamilton?
I mean, when I first saw the signing, I asked myself, what Johnny Manziel is going to show up? Is it Johnny Manziel who's matured some, who's grown up, who's understand that probably this is basically his last chance, or is it Johnny Manziel, the cocky, arrogant, flamboyant, young kid from money who just thinks that the world should be handed to him? At some point in his game, you have to mature. And I hope for this young man's sake that he realizes that, this is his last opportunity. The NFL didn't give him a chance, so he can go out there and play the game he loves to play. We're not him. We are going to find out right now if Johnny Manziel loves his game of football or if it's Johnny Manziel of old, and we'll find out very, very fast.
Yeah, because I think his skill set, fits June Jones and what June Jones wants to do. I think his skill set was ability to maneuver in the pocket. Yeah, he could definitely play. So hopefully, I'm not the biggest Johnny Manziel fan, but I will be if he straightens up his act, because there's nothing better than a guy that can overcome basically himself from when he was younger.
He's his worst enemy.
Yeah. But let's face it, most of us are at one point or another in our lives. Next up, go ahead.
Most of us are humble enough and respectful enough to understand when we're doing something wrong, and admit we're doing wrong, and move past it, and and say sorry about it. Not him.
Yeah, so far not him.
15 years, isn't it?
Yeah. We'll know in a few weeks if it's him or not.
I wish him the best.
Next up, Robert, let's talk about Mark Trestman. Made a great transition to the NFL or to the CFL. Yeah. You got Mike Sherman goes to Montreal. What's your take? Is this a good fit for the Alouettes?
After the year that the Alouettes had last year, I think Sherman's a good coach for, I never had him personally as a coach myself, but I understand. From what I hear, he's a player's coach, and that's always a good thing, especially from a player's standpoint. You want a player's coach. You don't want a coach I've had them both. I had a Buddy Ryan in the NFL who was a player's coach, but who was from that old school World War II, military type. Put your knuckles down on the dirt, drive it up to their throat, and just win. And I was like, okay, coach. At some point you got to have fun with the game. And I think Sherman's is the type of coach that bring some life back in Montreal and give them something that they haven't seen there in a while. And it's just about having fun with your coach. And from what I hear, talking to a couple players, they really like him as a coach, and that's key.
All right, Brian, my question is this. When you look at Mike Sherman, I think the biggest question is how patient will Montreal be with him, because this team was a mess last year. They've added a few pieces this year, not enough really, I think, to make a big improvement off their 3 wins. So the big question is, will they give Sherman 2-3 years?
If they're smart, I think they will. And look, I've never been a big Mike Sherman guy. In his time in college football and things like that, I was never a big fan. But he's a very good coach. Very good, very as Robert said, a player's coach. If you want to turn something around, you just can't keep having turnover all the time. New head coaches every year. You've got to build and start building this thing over 2 and 3 and 4 years. And you got to give him an opportunity. I mean, you hired him for a reason, so give him an opportunity to to change this thing, and I really hope that they do, because look, let's be honest, the CFL needs Montreal to be a heck of a lot better than they've been. They're a laughing stock, and you've got to give it that opportunity, or you're just going to continue to cycle. So I really hope they give him the opportunity, and I would love to see him make something happen.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and start picking the Week 1 games. We're going to start off with Edmonton against Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg was a team that I think did a lot in the offseason to get even better, adding Chandler Finner, Darius Bowman. The problem is Matt Nichols is hurt. He's out for a month. The Edmonton Eskimos, you're looking at Mike Riley. Having Mike Riley right there makes you really good. But they did lose Bowman. They lost Zystra, and they're still loaded at wide receiver with Vidal Hazelton, guys like that. My first question is, I'm going to let Brian pick this first. Is there any hangover in Edmonton with the Jason Moss, kicking a field goal with under 2 minutes left, down 7 in the playoffs last year?
Yeah.
I'd still be pissed if I was a player.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I mean, look, for this situation coming into this game, I think Winnipeg is going to be a good team. Season goes on, getting Nichols back. But look, when you got Mike Riley, that's something that you really got to look at and say, hey, this is a team that I think is going to win this game. Edmonton, to me, I think is a very good football team, and I don't think that Winnipeg right now is going to have enough firepower to stay with Edmonton. So I'll take Edmonton.
Yeah, I think this is a game that would be a toss-up if Nichols was healthy, but he's not. I'm going with Schmidt. I'm going with Edmonton also. Robert?
I mean, Winnipeg is going to be a very, very good team. Very, very, like you said, very, very, very talented team. But, I mean, coming out of training camp, the beginning, you always have to go with the better players, the more seasoned, proven veterans. Mike Riley, it's hard to bet against Mike Riley, and I have to go with Edmonton also. He'll find a way to win this game.
All right, the next game. I think this is the best game of Week 1. We get the Toronto Argonauts, of course, the defending Grey Cup champions, at the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Saskatchewan announced, I think, today that Zach Collaros will be the starting quarterback. They got Brandon Bridge as he's back up, so they're loaded there. The big thing to me here, Robert, is the signing of Jerome Messam. I mean, this makes a team that finished the season extremely hot. I think a Grey Cup favorite, or one of the Grey Cup favorites.
Saskatchewan is going to be trouble all year. I mean, I was shocked when Zach Collaros went there, but I understood with the Manzo, signing and things, but I think Saskatchewan is going to be. I won't say it early now, but I mean, Saskatchewan is going to be a very, very good team to me. I think Messam is going to give them a lot of firepower in their offense that was already good, and the team that was already good last year. And I see them upsetting Toronto, at the start of the season this year.
Yeah, I think Saskatchewan wins the game too. The one thing about Toronto now is you got Ricky Ray, Brian, but you also got James Franklin, so they've got a backup now. The weakness I see with Toronto is they lose one of the best kickers in the league. I think you got to go with Saskatchewan at home in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Saskatchewan. That's a team that I think has made great moves. And look, let's be honest. You've got to really give them credit to where, just a couple of years ago, I can remember us on the show almost shaking our heads at Saskatchewan. And now, we've seen this building process to this point. This is a very dangerous team and a favorite to win the Grey Cup.
Yeah, and I think both teams have to be two of the top 4 teams in here because Toronto is loaded. that brings us to the next game, which is the Hamilton Tiger Cats out to Calgary Stampeders. The Stampeders lost Hughes, they lost Campbell, they lost Messam. But as we've made this comparison on the show for the last 3 years, Robert, they're kind of like the New England Patriots. No matter who they lose, they'll take a guy seemingly off the street and turn him into a star.
They reload. I mean, Calgary's just a well-coached, well-oiled machine. They just, no matter who they lose, like you said, it's like the Patriots. They just reload, and you can't bet against Calgary. And it said aura, it said atmosphere, and as someone who spent 10 years in the Canadian Football League, you always feared Calgary. No matter if they had 5 or 6 or 7 losses going into a season, you always feared Calgary because you knew how they were coached. You know how that city appreciates their football. You know how those players approach every game. So Calgary's a team it's hard to bet against Calgary, and I think Calgary's going to be a team that's going to be contending, right through the entire season, even with all the losses.
And I'll tell you, Robert, the thing that stands out to me is they're going to lose more games, so they're going to have to be at their best probably at the end of the season, even, which they haven't had to be the last couple of years. So this actually may be a blessing in disguise if they're clicking at the end of the season and they're playing in meaningful games.
Free agency makes this game very, very, very interesting. Whether it be the CFL, whether it be the NFL or hockey, or free agency makes the game very, very. It's a poker game. You don't know which star player is going to be on any other team the following year, but it makes it interesting. It makes it fun.
All right, now, Brian, Hamilton and Calgary. You got June Jones. You got Jeremiah Masoli. Maybe we'll see Johnny Manziel. Probably not, unless it really falls apart. I know you're a big June Jones fan. Calgary, the last couple of years, even when they were dominant, struggled at the start of the season. Do you think Hamilton's got enough to maybe pull the upset here?
Do they have enough? Absolutely. Will they? I don't think so. Look, it took 19 minutes into our first CFL show to be said it, but Calgary is the New England Patriots of the CFL. Every year, we talk about Calgary and we talk about how they, like you said earlier, they can seemingly take somebody off the streets and make them a viable football player, a viable part to what they do. They put the right pieces in place for their system. And I think Hamilton can keep this game close. I think Hamilton has a chance, but very hard to go against Calgary because they find ways to win. There are games where you'll see them put up 40. There are games where offensively they may struggle, but the defense comes through. You see them every week find a way to win. It could be offense, it could be defense, it could be special teams. They find a way, and they'll find a way in this game.
All right, that brings us to the final game of the week, Saturday night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, the Montreal Alouettes at the BC Lions. Wally Buono's first game of his final season. When I look at this game, Brian, I think you have to go with BC. They're at home. You have a little emotion with Buono. But the other thing that I noticed about them in the offseason, their offensive line was terrible last year. They added Joel Figueroa. They added Javon Olafoy. They had those two guys. Jonathan Jennings was shaky at times. He's great one week. He's terrible the next week. So the hope here is that if the offensive line's better, maybe he doesn't make as many mistakes. I think that's probably a stretch, but that's what I'm going with in this game. I like the Lions to win this game, Brian.
Yeah, I agree. The Lions, I think, will win this game, but I feel, what you said is very accurate. But if, and come to that big word if Jonathan Jennings can be a much more steady and consistent quarterback, then yes, this BC team has an opportunity to be a good team. Are they a Grey Cup team? I don't know. But I think certainly they can be good. But if Jonathan Jennings is that guy who can look great one week and then look terrible the next, then you're looking at a 500 team. And that's just the reality of it. So really how Jonathan Jennings plays is really going to speak a lot to where this team is by the end of the year.
All right, Robert, BC Montreal.
This is a game where both teams can prove a lot and show the rest of the league, who they are. Right now, teams are trying to figure out who the heck, Montreal and BC are. You know, as you said, Jennings, you know, just being inconsistent, you know, he can control a game when he wants to. When he gets hot, he's one heck of a quarterback. You know, and Montreal, it's the 3 wins last year. It's just, you know, lots of trouble. You know, but as I said before, changes. Even when I played, we had new guys come in. I mean, our first year, we went to the Grey Cup. You know, the next year we lost a lot of receivers, and then Daryl Mitchell came in, Mookie Mitchell came in. No one had no idea who he was. Ends up being an CFL Hall of Famer, you know, so you never know which players are going to step up and have a great year. So this is going to be an exciting year because with so much change is always good. I mean, and I always say that, you know, so these new teams coming out, we have to let the first couple of weeks, you know, pan themselves out, you know, to see what's going to happen. Do I think BC is going to win the game? Yes, I think BC is the better team, and they're going to win the game just off of, you know, just the veterans they have on the squad. But it doesn't mean that Montreal's not going to be good, though.
All right, we're going to go ahead and let's touch on the Ottawa Red Blacks real quick. Trevor Harris, I think if they keep him healthy, they lost a lot of players last year to free agency. They kind of stripped the roster and rebuilt. When I look at them, the thing that stands out to me is the fact that last year turnovers are what lost them. They generated the fewest turnovers, only 22. They turned the ball over the most. So if that just normalizes, this is a team that could win 10 or 11 games, I think. And with Noel Thorpe at the defensive coordinator position, I think that's going to help them. I mean, he did great things with the Blue Bombers defense. I think the Red Blacks are a team that if Trevor Harris is healthy, I mean, they could contend for a Grey Cup, Schmidt.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm a big Trevor Harris guy. I think he's an outstanding quarterback. Again, the key word is when he's healthy, and that's sometimes it's been a problem. But I think this is a team with enough pieces that if you know, stay healthy, we see, you know, really good things from the defense. This is absolutely a potential Grey Cup team.
All right, so we've got to do this. This is the first show of the year. And what we got to do, Robert, is we got to pick a Grey Cup final and a Grey Cup champion. That's just because if we don't, people are going to, you know, start tweeting to me asking why we didn't have the balls to do that. So you want to start us off?
Wow.
How about this? Let's just give us a champion.
Overall champion?
Yeah. Grey Cup.
I'd say Toronto wins it again.
All right. Schmitty?
Oh man, I'm gonna go with Edmonton. I'm gonna say that Mike Riley has a career year, and Edmonton wins the Grey Cup.
All right. Now, this will tell you it's going to be a good season because all three of us are picking somebody different. I'm going with Saskatchewan. I think they've loaded this roster. I think Chris Jones is a really good football coach. And if Zach Collaros stays healthy, they could win it all. But the thing is this. If Zach Collaros goes down for a few weeks, they've got a guy in Brandon Bridge that could step in and play. They got a guy in Brandon Bridge that may possibly be a guy that could take them on a deep playoff run if Collaros does go down. So I'm going to go with Saskatchewan. Schmidt's got Edmonton. Robert's got Toronto. Any final words, Robert?
I'd agree with you, but I just think the West is so tough. They beat each other up. I played in the Eastern Conference. I played in the Western Conference, and I was way more beat up toward the end of the year in the Western Conference than I ever was in the Eastern Conference. So I talent-wise, I'd agree with Saskatchewan, but they still got to go through that Edmonton defense, that Calgary defense. I mean, it's just it's brutal. But in the last word, it's going to be an interesting season. You know, new names, new faces, new teams, new coaches. You know, it's a feeling out period. You know, the first 5, 6, 7 weeks is just like a prize fighter. You got to jab. You got to jab. You got to move. You got to feel your opponent out. They'll find out their identity. Once they find out their identity, they'll be fine from that point. But we're gonna have to go through this every week until we find out the identity of every team that's playing in the CFL.
All right. Sorry about that. Brian, final words?
I'm looking forward to a great season. I really agree with what we said. I mean, there's a lot of really good teams here. I think you're gonna see great football throughout, and And what's really going to be interesting is, as with every season, is who has the big injuries. Is going to say so much. Who stays healthy, and that's going to be always interesting throughout the season because this is a league where a couple key injuries and you can go from a contender to not making the playoffs real fast.
All right, guys. I want to remind everybody they can catch myself, Robert, Brian, every week on the CFL Weekly Pickup Show. If you're listening, tomorrow at 6 o'clock Eastern Time live, I'll be interviewing former light heavyweight champion Michael Spinks, so make sure you check us out there. Next Monday or Tuesday, we just got to finish the day with him. I'll be interviewing on our NFL Legends show former Buffalo Bill running back Joe Cribbs, so make sure you keep an eye out on Twitter, so we'll let you know when that's going to be. You can hear all the shows for The Grilling Truth on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, any place you find sports podcast, you'll find The Grilling Truth. So for Robert Drummond, Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak.